Ranger has always been one of my favorite classes in D&D, and in Baldur's Gate 3, it gets a new breath of air, with improvements to a lot of the subclasses that are otherwise a little lackluster. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact main character I have been playing in my first playthrough of BG3. To me, a Ranger is a dual-wielding character that can also use ranged abilities, and that's the focus I've taken for this character, while also being able to summon beasts. So with that being said, we'll structure everything around those three criteria. Let me just tell you outright though, you can make a level 12 Ranger Beastmaster and have a great time. I just wanted to have more utility with my character per turn because I felt like if I miss any of my shots or what have you, my character's turn felt useless. And we'll talk about that little bit more after the build portion of this video, but if this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so that you can decide if it's the right you. So with that being said, we'll be taking 8 levels into Ranger Beastmaster first. It's important that we do that first because we want the level 7 Beastmaster ability to allow our companions to help, bringing up down players, and the level 8 ability which increases companions' hit points, doubling it in almost all cases. After that, we'll put 4 levels into Fighter as either champion for a more on-the-rails experience, just delivering raw critical hit potential, or Battle Master for more party utility, my preferred route. But that's really the entire gist of this video, outside of gear choices, of course. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down and get back to creating your Defender of the Woodland Realms. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. I currently have something like 89% unsubscribed viewership on the channel, and that's a metric I'm trying to change this year, so every little bit helps. You can jump ahead to any part of the video that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. And if you need help with any other subject in Baldur's Gate 3, check out my playlist linked below, at the end of the video, upper right corner. It's fucking everywhere. But let's get started here on my favorite Ranger Beastmaster build for Baldur's Gate 3. Jumping into character creation, we have a lot of really fun options for race. Now, if you just want to make a really cool kind of Dritz-Do'Urden Ranger, go with Drow. He's not really 100% Ranger. He's actually more Fighter than Ranger, which is a fact that has been corrected for me by Remortis, my good buddy. So if you want, you can go with a Drow. And Drow are actually a really good Ranger option. All elves are very good. And the reason behind this is that Drow, elf, both wood and high, get access to perception as a skill choice innately because of their race. And this is really good because you'll be using perception, insight, and persuasion quite a bit in the game. So it's nice to just kind of have that checked off. And also on top of it, Drow get access to 3 cantrips. They get Dancing Lights, Fairy Fire, and the Darkness cantrip. Mainly the Darkness spell is quite good. So this is a really solid option. Elf, going with the Wood Elf in specific, I personally went with because I wanted that increased movement speed. I like the increased movement speed because it allows me to get into place better for any kind of ranged attacks and stuff like that. Also, the Wood Elf gives me a further skill specialization in stealth. So I already have that checked off. So I can already start the game with 2 proficiencies in skills that maybe I didn't have otherwise. So I quite like that. Human is always great if you just want a simple increase to your carry capacity and what have you. Halflings are always quite fun too because a Lightfoot halfling has stealth advantage and they have an innate lucky here. So when you roll a 1 for attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. This is actually a pretty good option for the honor mode where you're kind of stuck with a lot of your rolls. The dwarf Dwegar is also a pretty good option here because Dwegar get 3 cantrips as well, just like the Drow. But their 3 cantrips, 3 cantrips? Well, they get Enlarge. That's the one I wanted to talk about. And Invisibility at levels 3 and 5. So those are some really good abilities. In addition to that, too, they get this Dwegar resistance. So they have a advantage on saving throws against illusions and against being charmed or paralyzed, as well as just a native resistance to poison. Meaning that when you use your favorite or your natural explorer here, you can choose fire and start the game resistant to both fire damage and as a dwarf resistant to poison damage. That's quite cool. Another really good option that I like too is the Forest Gnome because it gives you speak with animals right away and you don't have to waste a spell slot on it. And I actually really do like that because this being a Larian game, and you being a ranger, speak with animals is pretty crucial, just kind of the role play of it and everything like that. But of course, guys, this is a single player narrative game, so please choose the race that makes sense for you and the kind of RP you have created for your character. And I do really emphasize that. Really role play this and have a lot of fun with it, because it makes the decisions you choose for every character that much more enjoyable. My last little option here for your character is Tiefling, as either Asmodeus or Mephistopheles. The Zariel Tiefling is definitely doable too. It's just worth noting that the cantrips that they get access to outside of Thaumaturgy, Searing Smite and Branding Smite, are concentration spells that take both an action and a bonus action. So it's a very heavy investment on your character. And for you being either predominantly a range or predominantly a melee, however you want to play the character, it can be a little tough for you. The Mephistopheles Tiefling, though, on the other hand, gets access to Mage Hand, which you can do a lot of really fun things with. Burning Hands, which is really cool when things get up close to you. And then Flame Blade, which is actually pretty cool because the Flame Blade will summon a Scimitar, which is using your dexterity, which you will be using naturally with this character. And lastly, your Asmodeus Tiefling here gets access to Produce Flame for just another nice little ability. Hellish Rebuke, so they can basically do return damage as a reaction if someone hits them. And then the Darkness spell. The Darkness spell is really, really strong because it basically blinds everything. So you have advantage on hitting those targets. They can't cast any spells unless it's within like 5 or 10 feet or something like that, if it's a ranged spell. And they pretty much will have disadvantage on every type of melee check. It's a really, really strong ability that can be very, very abused. So go with whatever makes sense for you. Again, I went with a Wood Elf, and it worked. It's working very well for me. Our class is, of course, a Ranger. And for our Natural Explorer trait, we're going to want to choose stuff that makes sense for you. Now, what I mean by that is, I probably wouldn't choose Beast Tamer because this just gives you Find Familiar, which isn't terrible. It's pretty cool and pretty fun if you want to add another beast to your repertoire, but we will be having a beast as part of being Beast Master. Now, Urban Tracker, I would recommend if you are not going to have a rogue or bard in your party that is your sleight of hand character. If you want your ranger to be the person that is picking locks, stealing, and disarming traps, then you would choose Urban Tracker here. I did that, but you don't need to. You can go with Wasteland Wanderer Fire or Poison. You'll be able to choose another one of these by the time we hit level 8. So you can say, okay, you know what? Start of the game, I'm going to go Fire, and then later I'm going to go Poison. Or start of the game, I'm going to go Urban Tracker, and then later I'm going to go Fire. And the nice thing about these three is it's going to give us a resistance to that damage type, meaning we will take half damage of that type. Fire being the most prevalent damage type in the game, we'll put Wasteland Wanderer Fire right here if you're not going to go Urban Tracker. Now for favorite enemy, when I first made my Ranger, I went with Ranger Knight, and I found that I just really wasn't using the heavy armor like I thought I would. So if you want to go Ranger Knight, then I would say you'd want to swap 8 Ranger, 4 Fighter for 8 Fighter, 4 Ranger, and become more of a fighter with Ranger capabilities rather than a Ranger with fighter capabilities. My go-to recommendation here is Bounty Hunter because you gain proficiency in investigation, which is again a free proficiency. Now I've got 3 free proficiencies on this character: stealth, investigation, and perception as a Wood Elf. Creatures you hit with Ensnaring Strike, either range or melee, have disadvantage on their saving throw, meaning it's far more likely for that to go off, and Ensnaring Strike is a very good early ability. For our background, please, as always, choose the one that makes sense for the roleplay of your character, because this is really going to help out in the decisions that you make throughout the game. And it makes the game have a little bit more weight and personalized customization to yourself. You know, are you a former soldier who was at one point maybe a scout and has used those capabilities to become a ranger? Are you someone who has, studied all sorts of books and tomes and in doing so has learned so much about nature that you fell to a kind of guardian or defensive nature in that you became a ranger? Are you, an outlander who became a ranger through whatever means necessary? Just choose the background that makes sense for your character and the way you want to play this game. Do not just simply go, that seems like it's going to be the best one. The best one is the way that you enjoy playing. My min-max option is usually always Guild Artisan because this gives me free proficiency in insight and persuasion. So I've covered pretty much all the major things that the game has to throw at me through just all the things before I even get into my skill proficiency options. So, taking a look at this list, through this character in specific, I have stealth taken care of, I have investigation taken care of, insight, perception, and persuasion. So what I would tell you then is pretty much look at these and kind of make the ones that make sense for you and your character. If you get speak with animals, animal handling is useless. So do not choose this if you get that spell as either a forest gnome or you choose it as your first spell as a ranger. My honest opinion, just don't choose it outright. Survival, nature, and athletics are all really good options. If you did not have maybe perception or any of the other ones that I have just natively as part of my race selection or part of my background, I would definitely get them. Like perception is very, very good. Same thing with an insight and persuasion. You'll just be making a lot of those checks throughout the game. Survival checks you'll be making quite a bit too. This says to go, track prey, stay alive in the wild. It's mainly used to find that there's like dirt that you can dig and find stuff in. Nature is very not often used too, but an athletics proficiency here helps me shove and resist being shoved, which can be a nice thing as the AI will definitely shove you quite a bit. So now we've gone through all this, let's talk now about our ability scores. So with the Ranger, we're going to focus primarily on dexterity. That's where the majority of our damage is going to come from, since we're using ranged weapons and finesse melee weapons, as well as this will give us an increase to our initiative and help us out with also dealing more armor class from our dexterity score. In addition to that, we're going to increase our wisdom, because that's where all of our casting comes from. Now, if you're playing on honor mode, which is that new Iron Man mode that they released in patch 5, you can just stay here with 16 and 16 wisdom and dex. If you aren't and you want to kind of get a little spicy with this, you can pop up your dexterity to the 17, and then in Act 1, when you deal with the hag, is all I will say, because if you've never played the game, you'll discover who the hag is. One of the outcomes of dealing with her is getting her hair, which will give you a free ability point, which you can then put into here. And then in Act 3, you can get a lot of increases to your ability points. But if you want to just play a little bit more safe and just kind of have fun, just put it at 16. We're going to bring our Constitution here up to 14. We're going to leave our Strength as is. You can bring it to 10 if you want, but it's fine here at 8. Now, this depends, too, if you are playing your main character or if this is going to be one of your companions. If this is going to be a companion, bring your Strength up here to 8 to 10, maybe even 12 if you want. Bringing this to 15 is not going to give you any advantage, so I just keep this at. So either I would do something like this if it was not the main character. If it is the main character, do something like this. This gives us a +1 to our charisma checks, meaning that if we take a look at persuasion, we have a proficiency in it, and it kind of gets bugged when you have it inherited from a background, but this should read as a +3. Meaning that whenever we do any of our conversation checks throughout the game, even though our main character is a ranger, does not focus on charisma, we'll at least get a little bit of a benefit here and be able to push through a lot of the harder, more higher difficulty class persuasion checks as in the earlier portions of the game. And remember, your proficiency bonus goes from 2 to 3 to 4 at levels 1, 5, and 9 respectively. So it's something that only gets better for you. So this is probably what I would stick with for my main character going throughout the game, and we'll have plenty of ways to increase our strength through items, which we'll talk about in a bit. But let's jump now into the build. So jumping into the progression points here, right at level 2, we're just going to stick with Ranger all the way through to level 8. So your first 2 spells are going to be pretty interesting. It's going to depend, of course, what race you chose. If you chose a gnome, then you're never ever going to choose Speak with Animals because you always have it. But since we started with Bounty Hunter, we're going to go with Ensnaring Strike. And Ensnaring Strike is a good first option because Hunter's Mark gets really good when we have a pet. The problem here is between these 2 spells, they are both concentration spells. I like Hunter's Mark because I feel like it does a little bit more for me towards like a little bit later in the game. Ensnaring Strike is very good in maybe the beginning portions of the game and maybe a little bit stronger at the very end of the game. I don't know. It's kind of, I bounce back and forth between the 2 that I like the most. But what we're going to do outside of that is choose Long Strider. Now, Long Strider here, it is a ritual spell, meaning that when you cast it, it will this specific spell will last until long rest, but as a ritual spell, it does not cost a spell slot. So you cast this on every one of your member of your party right after you get up from a long rest, and you're just good to go after that. It is absolutely spicy. For our fighting style, we're going to go with archery. We will eventually pick up 2 weapon fighting, but we'll do it with our fighter levels. If you want to focus on being a dual wielder first and foremost and just doing archery damage as an afterthought, then you would start here. But for this character, we're going to start with archery because I want the melee damage to come from other sources within my party. We'll go ahead and accept here, push into level 3, and now we will choose Hunter's Mark. For our subclass, we will choose Beastmaster, which will then give us Ranger Companion. And we'll talk about more about the Ranger Companion after the build and go into some specifics about how these abilities will help play out and how Hunter's Mark, whenever your companion attacks something with Hunter's Mark, it will actually do the 1 to 6 damage here, but then do even more damage because it's your companion. So Hunter's Mark becomes very beneficial with your companion doing a lot of damage for you. Also remember too, you are a ranger, so this is the only way to swap out your spells is in between those levels. We'll jump up here to level 4, and we will choose the ability to replace those spell if we want, but now we go into our feats. Your feat options are going to just kind of depend upon what you want to do with the character, right? If you're going to focus on being a ranged combatant, the first feat we're going to go with is Sharpshooter. Now, what I kind of want you to think about too is, do you want to do the dual hand crossbows that everyone talks about is super good? You can do that. You would go Sharpshooter first, and then you would go crossbow expert. But I'm not going to use crossbows at all, unless I get a good one and I use it, but it's not the focus of this character. So I'm going to go with Sharpshooter. Now, of course, the very best quote-unquote ranger is like a Gloomstalker ranger that then does some spicing into rogue. But again, we're not going to focus on that entirely. So Sharpshooter is our big focus. If you want to focus more on the melee portion of this build, you would use Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and use the highest result. But if you want to do that melee, you'd probably want to get Dual Wielder first. You can use 2 weapon fighting even if your weapons aren't light, and you gain +1 bonus to armor class while wielding a weapon in each hand. You cannot dual wield heavy weapons. So what we'll start off here is we'll go Sharpshooter, then we will go with Dual Wielder, and then as our last feat, we can go with a number of things. We can go with Alert to give us 5 more bonus to our initiative. Ability Improvement to just simply buff up our wisdom or buff up our dexterity, whatever you really want to do there. You can also, like I said, though, go into Savage Attacker to just outright do more damage and melee, which is very good. Since we will be going with the Battlemaster, Martial Adept is really good here because it adds 2 more maneuvers to our maneuver list, and we get an additional superiority die. So if you really want to focus on the utility that Battlemaster brings, this brings you even more by getting 2 more maneuvers on top of your existing ones. So this can be very fun. It's a cool way to go about it. I really do like this route too if you want to really lean into that kind of support capability. Lucky is great for being for giving you some additional ways to reroll attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, especially if you're doing, say, honor mode and you're really struggling. This can be a nice one to have. But we'll start off with Sharpshooter and we'll go from there. Now into level 5, we get a big power spike. The first thing is extra attack, right? So this applies to our ranged attack. So when we do a ranged attack, we can now do 2 attacks for 1 action, which is huge. And a first big subclass feature here, Companion's Bond. The bond between you and your companion grows stronger. Your proficiency bonus is added to its armor and damage rolls. And at level 5, that proficiency bonus is now 3. It is huge. So we're going to finally start to get a lot of use out of our companion. You might have felt a really weird point where your ranger doesn't feel like they're doing much damage and the companion feels like absolute shit. This is where that all starts to change. Because at this point, your ranger's companion falls off almost every level until 5. So this is what really buffs it up and makes it a lot stronger. For our level 2, spell level 2 capabilities, spike growth is really good in the early portions of the game. You basically drop spike growth where there's maybe a bunch of casters or stuff like that, and then all of those monsters have to run through it. Or you cast spike growth, you place all of your melee characters at the edge of the spike growth, all of the enemies have to run through it. It does a ton of damage. And if you use the Raven can fly over the spike growth. So it's really cool. Keep in mind, though, it is a concentration capability, so you will need to kind of juggle that with your hunter's prey capability. Into level 6, we get some new favorite enemy. So if you went with Bounty Hunter before, you can now do something like Keeper of the Veil for proficiency in Arcana and protection from evil and good, which is quite good. Mage Breaker for Arcana and True Strike. True Strike's not that good. Sanctified Stalker for proficiency in Religion and Cast Sacred Flame, which is the worst fucking spell in the game. And then Ranger Knight if you want that proficiency in History and the heavy armor. So go with whatever one you want. I'd probably go with Keeper of the Veil, because this is actually a pretty good capability. It lasts until long rest, which is good. It is a concentration ability, but it will help out with Fae, Fiend, and Undead, which you will deal with tons of in the latter portions of the game. For Natural Explorer, if you went with Urban Tracker, go with Fire. If you went with Fire, then go with Poison. You'll have Fire and Poison resistance in the game is really nice. Again, though, if you have Beast Tamer, have fun with that. Find Familiar so you can have a little bit of fun. Have another little creature out if you so wish. You really want to lean into that kind of Beastmaster idea. No, it's level 7 is our next one. This is the important level. So now, subclass feature. Your animal companion can dash, disengage, and help as a bonus action. The Sean Connery bonus action? No, as a bonus action, which is huge because now the action economy for companion just went through the roof. It could dash, disengage, and help before, but now it can all do that as a bonus action. So if you have a Raven, it can use a primary action to dash, and it can use a bonus action to dash, and then you can fly a huge distance. So it allows you to really jump up in the face of something and lock them down. If you can use this for any one of your other companions too, hey, you know what? One of your main, your healer or your wizard or your barbarian, whatever it is, was just downed. Well, now your companion can use its bonus action to help get them up. Primary action, dash. Bonus action, help, gets that character back online for you. Help is the biggest boon for this companion. And it's a really, 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 really huge feature for the Ranger. I couldn't even think of the damn word. Choosing a new spell here. Sparkskin, cool. It increases its armor class to 16. Again, it's a concentration capability, so kind of keep that in mind. Protection from poison is nice because this is not a concentration capability, and it grants resistance to poison. So if you're dealing with a bunch of traps in an area, you can cast this. It gives you a nice little bit of functionality here. Talents is always good to have. It is a concentration ability, though. Pass Without a Trace is not really huge for this character, so I wouldn't focus on it. The rest of these just kind of choose whichever one. Like maybe you go with this if you didn't choose it earlier or finally want to put it into your repertoire. I mean, there's plenty of ways to get Speak with Animals, so I've kind of skipped out on it. But have fun with your options here. You really can't go wrong with too many of them. Hail of Thorns is okay. I don't like it a whole ton because, again, anything that uses an action and a bonus action, I struggle with because it takes a lot of action economy away from me, and I don't want that to happen. So use whichever one fits you and your scenario. Because our last level here in the Ranger is going to do a little bit more. We're going to land stride, so difficult terrain no longer affects us. Great. And, oh, I guess it doesn't show it here. But one thing that happens at level 8 that this doesn't show you is that all of your companions now get more health. A substantial increase to their health. So, for example, wolves go from 31 to now 61 health. Ravens go from 21 to 32. Spiders go from 24 to 42. Boars from 27 to 51. And finally, bears from 39 to 69. Nice. So now all of your Ranger companions are going to be viable throughout the rest of the game. Now, it's worth noting, too, you can go 4 more levels into Rangers here. It's okay. You can take that route. And your Ranger Beastmaster, your beasts are going to become even better. They're going to get more hit points finally at level 9. And they're going to get more hit points at 11. More hit points at 11. And they'll get an extra attack at 11. They'll get more abilities at 11 as well. So 11's that kind of final breaking point for the Beastmaster. What I will say, though, is that at 8, your Beastmaster is going to be strong with their beast. But around level 10, that beast is going to start to fall off as far as its outright damage capability. You have to start thinking of the beast beyond level 10 as, how do I use this to supplement my party or help out my party or get in the way of an enemy? It stops becoming something that can outright do a serious amount of stuff and becomes something that's more of like a great, I can use this to CC things. I can use this to lock something down over here. I can use this to distract something over here. So I want you to think of your beast in that way rather than, hey, you know what, man? This build sucks because my beast can't 1v1 Raphael. Well, that's okay. It's not supposed to. Your beast is supposed to augment and supplement you and your party. And it's even more true this way because we do not have the strongest beasts possible. We have the penultimate one. So just keep all that in mind as you progress through this. We're now going to pick up Dual Wielder. That's going to give us our ability to wield not light weapons, and we get +1 to our armor class, which is lovely. This allows us to really have a lot of fun with abilities. So now we jump into Fighter, and this gives us our new fighting style. We get 2 weapon fighting, which makes it so that you can make an attack with an offhand weapon and add your ability modifier to the damage of the attack. Meaning, we add +3 because that's what our dexterity modifier is. So we accept this. Good to go. And we also, of course, get second wind. Nice little heal. That'll become better as we level up our fighter. Level 2, the big thing for fighter is, of course, action surge. So now we get a whole additional extra action once per long rest. Maybe a short rest. I make all these videos, but I'm pretty dumb. Subclass here is either Battle Master or Champion. You're going to see with the gear that we have a lot of ways to reduce our critical hit. Meaning that a critical hit, when you roll a attack roll, if it's a 20, it's a crit hit. Boom. Spicy amount of damage. With the Champion, we reduce that number from a 20 to a 19. We're going to use, this helmet is in one of them, that would reduce that number even further. There's a bow that reduces that number even further. There is 2 separate weapons that reduce that number even further. So across the bow, the helmet, those 2 other weapons, that's a -4. With this, -5. So you'll be able to crit hit things on a 15 or higher as a champion. It's a real great way if you want to just kind of put the character on the rails. Don't think about what their other abilities can be. I just want them to shoot with the bow and arrow and mess things up. Even if they want to use 2 weapons, they can. You can just do that route. Champion is just fine. It's not a lot of flair, but it's still it's a lot of big juicy numbers. Battle Master is what I went with because I wanted the capability to use these maneuvers to help out my party or to help out myself or just get a little bit more utility out of the character. So I went with Riposte. Riposte is really good because that means anytime someone misses you, you can use the superiority die to just simply attack right away, and you get a 1d8 bonus on that attack. Trip attack is really good here because you can knock things prone. Pushing attack, you can push things 15 feet. Where is it? Disarming attack is nice because you can knock the weapon out of something's hand. So all 3 of those are very good ways to just kind of control the battlefield a little bit better that extend outside of just your character, right? Knocking someone prone gives everyone else advantage. Pushing something, you can push them off a ledge or push them closer to a heavier hitting melee target. Disarm something, now they can't do their melee attacks against you, and this is a really scary monster. You have a lot of ways you can really have fun with it. I do not like fainting attack very much because this uses your action and bonus action to attack a target with advantage and deal 1d8. It just, for me, it just is not really what I want because there's a lot of ways I can get advantage on my character outside of fainting attack, so I think it's a little bit of a trap. I like precision attack though because you can spend a superiority die to add it to the result on an attack roll, meaning that I can, let's say I roll a 15, I can use my superiority die, the remaining superiority die I have as a plus. So meaning we start here with 4. This costs me 1 to use, meaning I get a +3. So I would get, rather than 15, I'd get an 18 on that roll. It means I'm more likely to hit whatever it is. And you know, we'll go with disarming attack. Most of these attacks have a range counterpart. So we can use them even though we're just kind of hanging back and using our bow and arrow. Just to kind of just show that off right here, right? It says trip attack, ranged, all that kind of fun stuff. We'll accept this and go to our final level with Fighter. And we can choose here. Do I want to go more melee? I would go Savage Attacker. Do I really want to lean into all of these capabilities that we've already unlocked? Well, now we had 4 superiority die. We get 5 now. That's really cool, right? And on top of it, we have these disarming, precision, and riposte. Well, now we can go trip attack and maneuvering attack, which is one I forgot to talk about, which I really like. So spend a superiority die to make an attack that deals an additional 1d8. On hit, select which friendly creature will gain half its movement speed. It will not provoke attacks of opportunity. So what you can do during your turn is use this capability and realize, hey, you know what? My cleric is embroiled, is surrounded by 3 other things. I'm going to go ahead and use maneuvering attack. I'm going to give that movement to the cleric. They're not going to incur opportunity attacks, so they can get out of that really hard pinched area, and they can move a little bit further. Or you know what? I'm going to use this on my big bruiser melee character to get them further into combat and not incur any kind of attacks of opportunity. Move and weave through a ton of things to get there. It's a really, really, really good ability, and I like it quite a bit here. Let's go with Savage Attackers, though, because I think it'll be fun to show off some of the capabilities the character can do. But that is the entire build. Let's now talk about gear. Let's take a look at all these abilities kind of put together. One of the big things I want to highlight is if I press passive and I go over here. So just like Great Weapon Master, Sharpshooter allows me to get a penalty to my attack roll but deal 10 more damage. So I can really kind of amp up damage on any kind of chaff or things that accompany maybe a boss, whatever the situation is. Then maybe just shut this off when I'm attacking a harder to hit opponent, like, well, again, like a boss. And outside of that, we have all these fun things, right? So we have all our abilities from our Battle Master. We have all of our spells that we get as a ranger. You can see that here and here. Now, just to kind of really quickly talk to you about Ritual spell. As you can see here, this says Ritual. I would cast this on myself, and it would not cost me a spell slot. It's going to be really useful throughout the entirety of the game. You can cast this on your entire party. You could even use a level 2 spell slot and target 2 characters, and it will not use that spell slot. It's a really just great capability here. Another example too would be Speak with Animals, another ritual spell. But having all these things present, it makes for a lot of really fun stuff. But now we can also talk too about our Ranger Companion. The Ranger Companion, when I press this button, we have all of our abilities. Got a Bear Companion, which draws the enemy's attention with its goading roar. The Boar Companion, which can charge. The Wolf Spider, which can web and poison enemies with its bite. The Dire Raven, which can blind. And then lastly, the Wolf Companion. So we can summon this up, and you can summon up every short rest. So I'll show you right now. We'll go ahead and summon up the Wolf. Now, this will gray out, and we cannot summon another one. You just simply, though, do a short rest, if I had one, and it would allow me to summon up another companion. So, to quickly kind of go through this here, we'll start off here with the fighter. But one thing I want to talk about is if I press this button, I'll go back to my character and highlight that, examine. All of the hunter pets get this. You deal an additional 1 to 6 creature to deal an additional 1 to 6 damage to creatures marked by your ranger's hunter's mark. So the 1 to 6 that hunter's mark does is in addition to the praise sent. So basically, anytime your beast does damage, it will do its damage to a thing that's marked with hunter's mark. It'll do its damage plus 1 to 6 plus an additional 1 to 6. So this allows your beast to always kind of have a really good amount of punching damage as far as hitting into higher classes than its level. This level 7 spider will still be viable throughout the entirety of the game for me because it will always pretty much have this additional 1 to 6 on a target that has Hunter's Mark. So it becomes really important to use Hunter's Mark as you play through this build because it allows you to add so much damage. So just quickly looking over here at the spider, it's worth noting at level 5, all of your companions, oh god, get more, I don't like spiders, get more abilities, but I'll argue too that the spider is like one of the best companions because this then gets Cocoon at level 5. Trap a creature in your web to cocoon it. Cocoon here, trapped in a spider's web, can't move or take actions, bonus actions, or reactions. The condition ends upon taking damage. So this is a really, really good ability. And another thing too that this doesn't talk about is Arachnid Jump, which is a bonus action here, as opposed to Jump over here, which is also a bonus action, but this doesn't use movement speed, as you can see. So it allows you to kind of get a little bit of a better jump here. And of course we have web as a portion of the spider that allows me to web things. And I do also have poison damage with the spider, which is very, very fun. Let's take a look at some of the other companions. I'm not going to summon every single one of them because it will require me to do bunch of finesse here, but just to quickly talk about some of them, there's the Boar Companion, or as I call it, the Barbarian. Because the cool thing about the Boar at level 5 is that it gets the ability to enrage. So it can go into a frenzy, it will increase its damage by 2 slashing, and it gains resistance to physical damage, as well as advantage on strength checks and saving throws. It's a really, really cool ability for the Boar. It basically adds another Barbarian to the party. It gets Frenzied Strike that it can use as well, and it just has the ability to charge in addition to all of its other fun actions. The cool thing too is that Frenzied Strike, just like the Berserker, is a bonus action. So the Boar can charge or attack as its primary action, and then do Frenzied Strike as its bonus action. So I actually very much enjoy the Boar. I think it is the one that maybe people don't go with as much because the Raven or the Spider is very gamey. The Bear, though, is another very, very, very. And the Bear is unfortunate in that level 5 Bear is good, but the level 11 Bear is amazing. And I'll say why in a second here, even though we're not going to level 11. Level 5 Bear here is going to get us access to Goading Roar, which is basically a taunt. And the nice thing about this is, even if your Bear has 1 hit point, it's going to pull things towards it or have it actually attack it until the Bear is dead, which I actually kind of like here. It just pulls the attention away from you. The Bear also just does normal amount of damage, which is cool with its claws. It has that prey scent we've all talked about. But the thing that it gets at level 5 is Honeyed Paws, which allows it to disarm a target. And if it doesn't hold a weapon, it can knock it prone. So the Bear can be a fun one. At level 11, though, the Bear gets this thing called Ursine Reinforcements, which allows it to summon another Bear. And that Bear is not the same level that the level 11 Bear is. It's summons like a level 7 Bear. So it's a little bit less. The one thing I just don't like is that summoned Bear is not under your control, and it always will blunder through traps into blindness, just a bunch of issues where the Bear actually kind of ends up hampering you more than helping you. So it is still a cool capability that the Bear does have. The other one is the Dire Raven, which is another one that I use a lot. I think it's probably the one I use the most outside of the Spider. So the Dire Raven uses its beak, does piercing damage. It has Rend Vision, which is cool, so it can blind targets, as you can see, because it blind the target. But the nice thing, though, is this has Fly. It's the only companion that can fly. This allows it to fly over anything that's on the ground. Maybe it's poison, maybe it's fire, maybe it's your spike growth, whatever it is, it can fly over it, which is nice. And that fly also allows it to fly to locations and help people that are downed, that are maybe held from hold person, all sorts of ways that you would apply help to people, it can do, which is cool. At level 5, though, it gets a really good capability. It gets Bad Omen. So this allows it to curse a target. And the curse here just helps it so attack rolls against the affected entity have advantage. So you could curse a target with your Raven, and if you have a rogue in your party, that rogue can always use sneak attack, right? So it's a really nice way to kind of get some really fun advantage onto any of the bigger, heavier hitting things you're trying to go for. And the last companion here is the Wolf Companion. Now the Wolf Companion gets Lunging Bite to start off with, and Lunging Bite, see, it has an ability to knock things prone, which is always lovely. But it also has something, I don't know why it doesn't show it in, but yeah, it doesn't show it in. You know what? We'll just summon this one. It's the last one for the session. So this little guy also has, where is it? Pack Tactics. The creature has advantage on attack rolls against a target if one of its allies is within 10 feet of the target and isn't incapacitated. So the cool thing about the wolf is if it's up front and personal with another one of your allies in close combat, it can get advantage of this. If you are up next to the wolf using your 2 hand weapons, it can help get advantage. So this allows you to pour a lot of damage onto targets, especially if you have that prey scent active with Hunter's Mark. It is really, 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 really nice. Now at level 5, Bite turns into just Infectious Bite. So bite a target and possibly turn it septic. And septic here, affected entity has its constitution reduced by 1 and has disadvantage on constitution saving throws. It does necrotic damage too, which can pair really well with a lot of other things that do necrotic damage. So you can still do your standard edition bite if you so wish, but now you just get Infectious Bite as your standard default attack. and lunging a bite, which we talked about a little bit. But those are all of your companions. They're really going to come down to how you want to use your companions in your party and what you want to do with them. Again, I really like the Raven and the Spider quite a bit, but I also really like the Wolf for certain things. The Boar for a lot of situations. I think the companion I use the least is the Bear, to be totally honest. I think that a lot of people would say otherwise. Bear is probably one of the best ones, but it comes down to you and how you want to use them. Let's now go into some gear discussions. So to start us off, when it comes to weapons, let me talk about the items I actually don't have on this character. And the first one is the Hunting Shortbow. You get this in the beginning of the game in the Emerald Grove at Daemon. You Feller of Monsters, you have advantage against monstrosity type enemies. Remember, this applies to both your melee and your ranged attacks, and you will use this for a long time. You can use this all the way until you get a crossbow that will deliver Bane onto targets. You can use it for the majority of the time until you get to Act 3. It's actually pretty damn good. It only has a +1 to its enchantment. It does have a bound Hunter's Mark, which is kind of cool. But having that advantage against monstrosity type enemies is actually very good. So you can sit on this bow for the entirety of the game until you get to Act 3 when you get your top tier one. But I really, really like this bow. Another thing you're going to get in Act 1 if you go through the Mountain Pass is the Knife of the Undermountain King. Now, the stats that I'm showing you here, they have changed as of patch 4 or 5. Now, this just makes it so that whenever you want to critical hit something, you would do it with 1 less, just like we talked about with Champion, right? So if you crit hit things on 20, you crit hit them now on 19. Also, you have advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets when using this blade, which will become very huge and advantageous throughout the entirety of Act 2. And you just have this on your person. So it's a really nice thing to use here. The Shadow Blade thing is only going to come into effect when you use melee attacks, but the Organ Rearranger is going to have effect throughout the entirety of just simply having this equipped. It's a really, really good one that can last you the entirety of your playthrough even. Another good one here is Rhapsody that you'll be getting in access to in Act 3 once you deal with Asterian's Quest. This is going to gain +1 bonus to attack rolls damage and spell save DC for every foe you slay up to a max of +3. And then possibly inflict bleeding when hitting a creature with this weapon while hiding or invisible. So if the latter part you're probably never going to take advantage of because you don't really hide or use invisibility with the character. But the first thing is great, right? Attack rolls on damage increase is always lovely for Rhapsody. And lastly is Bloodthirst. This is something that you're going to get in Act 3 as well as you deal with the main quest. The number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack. That's the biggest thing. The nice thing, though, is exploit weakness. Creatures hit with this weapon receive vulnerability to piercing, which is really cool. And if you use this in the offhand, when a creature misses you with a melee attack, you may retaliate and gain True Strike. So basically, you can get the same ability that you get from Riposte, but it wouldn't use a superiority die, and it would give you True Strike, which helps out with attacks after that. It's so damn good. But this just depends on when you're going to do this portion of the main quest without spoiling anything. So this just kind of depends on you and how you go about it. But once you get access to it, it'll be quite good. Now, outside of those things, we have the items I do have. Now, the Drakefire Shortbow you're going to get access to in Act 2, and it is a real great shortbow just because it grants you resistance to fire and cold damage and also gives you haste. It's just great. If you never ever want to do any kind of range, you could just keep this on your character and gain the benefit of those resistances and a free on. Another good one too is Bow of the Banshee. On hit, possibly inflict Frightened. Gain +1 d4 bonus to attack and damage against frightened creatures. Frightened is really nice because it kind of locks things down for you, so it's a really, really great capability. Now, the best bow for this build, in my opinion, there is one better one. Well, not one better one. There's a legendary bow, but I don't think it's better than the Deadshot. So the Deadshot here, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack, as we've now seen many, many, many times. Keen Attack. The wielder doubles their proficiency bonus when rolling ranged attacks with this weapon unless they have disadvantage. So you get +4 when rolling ranged attacks with this weapon. No, you get +8. I can't count, clearly. So it's just a really, really strong weapon that you then can use braced with, spend 20 feet of your movement speed for the rest of your turn, roll ranged damage twice, and use the highest result. This really helps you get a really strong alpha strike. Now, as far as your other one-handed weapons. We talked about some of the bigger ones that you can get, but you'll get access to the Sword of Life Stealing here in Act 2 at the very beginning from Damon in the Moonlight Towers, assuming you do not kill him in the Emerald Grove. On a critical hit, the target takes an extra 10 necrotic damage as long as it isn't a construct or undead, and you gain 10 temp hit points. It's just a really nice sword to use. And the nice thing too is that this is a finesse weapon. That's a big focus. Almost everything I've shown you is a finesse weapon up to this point. The Falar Eluve, which you'll get in Act 1 from the beginning once you go into the Underdark. And this I used for a long time, mainly because of the melody here. You can sing and buff everyone around you, or you can shriek and debuff everyone around you, and they take 1 to 4 extra thunder damage. It's a really cool thing to just kind of have on. The game kind of bugged out for me. There's a point where you'll be able to, you have to attack like reflections of yourself. And one of my characters disarmed one of them. So I've got 2 of these weapons. You're not supposed to get 2 that I know of. But either way, it's a longsword, it's finesse, and it's versatile. So you can use this in your main hand with a light weapon in your offhand until you get the dual wielder feat, which allows you to dual wield 2 non-light weapons. Outside of that, though, you can use any of the scimitars you're going to get access to in the game. There's plenty that you can jump into. Just choose one and go with it. But I really like the Handmaiden's Mace here. The reason here is that it sets the wearer strength to 18. The enchantment has no effect if their strength score is higher without it, which is whatever. But this gives me free 18 strength. So now I don't need to use finesse weapons if I do not want to on this character. You'll get this at the beginning or end of Act 3 whenever you decide to do the House of Grief. And the nice thing, like I said, is just unlocks all the other weapons for me to play with that are one-handed. So if you want to use the non-finesse weapons, you can just go ahead and use this. I personally, on this character, haven't gotten Rhapsody or Bloodthirst, so I'm not using it. Now, the other weapon I get from Jaheira is Balm, which is a classic of Baldur's Gate. But this is just a nice +2 weapon enchantment, perfectly balanced strike, which is a bonus action. This is a free bonus action that I can use to just attack again with this. So the nice thing is that I'll be able to attack and then just use a bonus action again with this, which is lovely. Overall, I love this weapon, and I can just do a quick whirlwind attack if I really want to. Things that Belm delivers to the table for me. Because the main thing of the focus of my character personally is using the dead shot. Those are our weapons. Let's talk gear now. So for gear, we're going to focus on medium armor. And you can use light armor. I mean, the hide armor throughout the game is really good. The studded leather armor is really good because it all gives you a bonus to your initiative. But ultimately, you're going to want to fall on the armor of agility. Now, light armor is still a really good call because light armor does not give you a limitation on the amount of AC you get. So if I were to take a look at light armor, right here, it just says 12 armor class, right? Well, my character has, in this case, 19 because I messed with his stats a little bit, +4 to his dexterity check. So his armor class would go up by 4, meaning that this light armor's AC would be a total of 16. I like medium armor on the character because it's the role play I have envisioned for them. Using light armor is the min-max option. So just go with whatever makes sense for you. But ultimately, you're going to land on armor of agility, which won't matter. Add your full dexterity modifier to your armor class. Additionally, this armor does not impose disadvantage on stealth saving or stealth ability checks and saving throws +2. It's where I want to be with this build. It's the best armor for it, in opinion. You could also go with like increased crit armor and go light armor if you really want to. But again, I wanted medium armor. I set that out at the very beginning. Adamantine scale I used as soon as I got it, and I used it almost all the way up until I got the armor of agility here. All incoming damage is reduced by 1. When a melee attack hits you, the attacker is sent reeling, and attackers can't land crits on the wearer. So I really enjoyed using this up until the point that I switched over to the armor of agility. Now, outside of that, we have our gloves. I'm using the gauntlets of the War Master. Targets have disadvantage on saving throws against your maneuver and weapon actions, which is to me really good, and also a +1 to my attack rolls. Very strong. Now, you can get Legacy of the Masters. Both of these are in Act 3 from, I think, the same vendor. Gain a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls with this weapon and +1 strength saving throw. So you get that +1 attack from Gauntlets of the War Master, but now you get it as a +2 here, which is really, really lovely. And also to your damage. Great. Another good one too is Gauntlets of Surging Accuracy, which you'll get in Act 2, which is lovely. When you use Action Surge, gain a +1 d4 bonus to attack rolls for the rest of your turn. So the way you would use this is you'd use Action Surge, and then you would go ahead and do all the actions in a given turn that you wanted to do, right? So, okay, I use Action Surge, I buff my character up, I'm good to go. Now time to go through everything else because I get this buff from 2 early gloves, those Gloves of Power. If you want to go with Sleight of Hand, this just gives you a bonus to Sleight of Hand. Also, if you end up getting the brand on your character, you get a little bit extra value out of that. And probably the best gloves to get here in Act 1 that you'll get from the Goblin Camp, you gain proficiency with longbows and shortbows. In addition, your range attacks deal an additional 2 damage. Personally, I'd get the Gloves of Archery, sit on them all the way until I got either Surging Accuracy, Legacy of the Masters, or War Master Gauntlet. It's probably the best bet. For your boots, I'm wearing the Boots of Persistence because you gain freedom of movement and long strider, which is lovely. But if you want some mobility, go with the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. You can't be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared, and you get Misty Step as a bound action. So even just something simple like the Blackguards or Blackguards Greaves, you gain long strider and +1 athletics. And the Boots of Striding, when you cast a spell that requires concentration, you gain momentum for 1 turn. While you're concentrating, you can't get knocked prone or be moved against your will, which is great because Hunter's Mark is a concentration spell. I use these Boots of Striding until I put on the boots. So they're a really, really great boot. Fit the character pretty well. For the cloak, go with whatever one you want. I have the Cloak of Elemental Absorption, so I can absorb elements. I just like that capability. But even something like the Flesh Melter's Cloak, so whenever someone does melee damage to you, you return and do acid damage, which is always lovely and strong. For your helmet, I'm using Saravok's Horned Helm because this, again, it makes it so my critical hits are reduced by 1. That's huge for me. Can't be frightened. Cannot be afflicted with other emotion-altering conditions, and a Constitution saving throw is increased by 1. Now, why that last part is important is because concentration abilities like Prey, or what Prey? Hunter's Mark, is a concentration ability, so it makes a Constitution saving throw to make sure that ability stays online. So if you go into melee combat, this helps you keep it going. Some other good helmets that you get access to is the Flawed Helldusk helmet right here at the beginning. Well, you need the special metal. You give it to Damon in Act 2. And he'll make you the Flawed Helldusk armor. The wielder has +2 bonus to saving throws against spells. Constitution saving throw +1. So it's going to be beneficial for your character. I wore this until I got Saravok's helmet. The Covert Cowl is great, though. While obscured, that's important, the number you need to roll a crit hit while attacking is reduced by 1. So you have to make sure your character is hidden in some way, shape, or form. And obscured is just simply... now heavily obscured, but this little half sun thingy, that would be lightly obscured. So you just need to be obscured in some way, shape, or form. From a spell, from being in a location, from sneaking, whatever it is, and you get the benefit of that. For helmets, though, lastly, we have the Circlet of Hunting. You gain a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls against creatures marked by Hunter's Mark, True Strike, which we talked about, which from Bloodthirst, Fairy Fire, and Guiding Bolt. Guiding Bolt can be done from your cleric, like Shadowheart, for example. Fairy Fire from a lot of other sources, but if you're already going to be using Hunter's Mark, the Circlet of Hunting just goes so well with it. You basically get a free 1d4 bonus just for having Hunter's Mark on. And there's another thing on here that gave us that 1d4 bonus here for Gauntlets of Surging Accuracy. You really can stack those bonuses quite a bit. Where am I? What am I doing? Who's making this video? It's me. Okay, so we also have the Amulet of the Harpers, advantage on wisdom saving throws. I just like having shield. It's really great, just boost to my AC when I need it. But some other great ones are stuff like the Moondrop Pendant. When the wearer has 50% hit points or less, they don't provoke opportunity attacks. So you can get out of hard to reach spaces. Or Amulet of Misty Step is another good early one. That's just allows you to use Misty Step to get out of a tight bind. For your rings, I don't have it. I thought I did, but the Caustic Band is good for whenever you do weapon damage. It does 2 acid damage. So it's lovely. Just a flat 2 damage to anything you do, which is any weapon you use. So if you dual wield, that's 4 acid damage. The Spurred Band, during combat when the wearer starts their turn with hit points 50% or less, they gain momentum so they can move a little bit further. And then Crusher's Ring, just a flat increase to your movement speed. For your other rings that are probably best in slot, you have Ring of Regeneration, just a free heal every turn. And Killer's Sweetheart, which is a free auto crit once per long rest. You have a lot of really great capability. All the items. What is it? Not an item that should. But that is all of your gear, your equipment. Let's take a look at some combat for this character to show what they can really do. Before jumping into combat, make sure you also buff your pet with any until long rest buffs that you would buff the rest of your party with, because it's always important to make sure they get the most value out of being up. jumping into combat, let's have some fun. Let's do some stuff. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and actually, we didn't put them on. I was going to use the Gauntlets of Surging Accuracy, but I'm stupid. But either way, we're going to use our action surge up front. So that way we just kind of have a bunch of actions that we can do. And from here, we can get spicy. I can go ahead and drop down a spike growth and put this right here. Of course, it's going to get Karlach in the way, but it only affects them if they're moving, really. So let's just do it to make a point. I'm actually going to put it right here. Spike growth does definitely fall off in the latter portions of the game. But by the time you get it online in the end of, well, kind of like the midpoint of Act 1 into the beginning of Act 2, it's actually going to be quite strong. I definitely don't think it's something that you're going to really focus on in latter portions of the game. But for example here, this is something I could put down. It's going to allow all these targets to take damage as they move off of the spike growth. I'm going to swap, though, my concentration ability over to Hunter's Mark. Let's go ahead and drop it on this target. So it's going to shut off that spike growth, and we're now going to use Hunter's Mark instead. I did that deliberately. And I'm going to use Brace. Now I'm going to do more damage. And I want to keep this character alive just to show you the kind of damage my wolf can do. But I'm going to take one shot just to show you what we can do with just this one shot. You know what? Even we'll do this. We'll use our precision attack. That's going to add now 3 to our rolls. And we'll use disarming attack ranged. So we have quite a bit going on here. Let's press this button. Weapon dropped, and we did a flat 27 damage. So that's awesome. As you can see here, proficiency, keen attack, archery, oh, that was an attack roll, sorry, damage roll. Piercing damage, we had a reroll there, dexterity modifier, we had more piercing damage go into it, we had the sharpshooter damage add into it, we had a hunter's mark damage add into it, so a lot of really strong capabilities. So 27 damage into this target. I don't want to keep shooting it because I could possibly kill it, so we're going to switch and just shoot another target real quick. Critical hit of 27. Not really, all honesty, most damage. Another shot over here. Critical hit 32. Because we're getting all these critical hits, right? Because we've got this on. We've got this on. So our crits are just way more alive. Even so, even one over, we're not even a champion. Were I be a champion, then we'd be even doing more hits. Had I had Rhapsody, we'd be doing more. Bloodthirst, even more. So you just get a lot of ways to really wombo combo a lot of the damage from this character. More critical hits, man. What a sick showing this has been so far, right? That's so many critical hits. Now, keep something in mind. When you are playing a ranged character, if you keep your bow out, you cannot use any kind of opportunity attacks. In this case, that's just fine. But let's say someone comes over to me and tries to swing on me. I will not use my riposte reaction with my bow out. I have to do this. So I would recommend you just kind of do that so your character pulls their weapons out, take advantage of anything you can if they're close to distance. So I'm going to keep this character alive to show you what it's like with my wolf attacking them. We'll skip through, let all these characters do all their stuff until our wolf gets to go right after this one. And now, wolf can do a number of things. We only have, since unfortunately our wolf isn't at a level 11 wolf, so it does not get the extra attack, we can only do like stuff like a lunging, a bite, or this infectious bite. Now the cool thing though is we will be within 10 feet of Karlach, so that gives us advantage on the swing. Let's just go ahead and use infectious. Got lucky, we did a hit. Now the damage roll you can see here, it did the necrotic damage, it did the companion's bond, and then it did the prey scent. So you have a lot of damage that get pulled into this character, and it does allow you to really spike that damage up when this really can get out of control. So your companion can supplement you damage-wise. It can supplement you by doing, maybe if I had instead done lunging bite to try to knock this thing prone, it would have given me a lot of advantage on hitting that target. If I was using the Raven, I could have blinded targets, cursed them. If I was using the Spider, I could have enwebbed them or cocooned them to really CC things to help me deal with a lot of stuff in the battlefield. So this is a build that can do a lot. It's a lot more active than I think than just simply being a ranger and simply using your Beastmaster. It allows you to supplement the abilities of your party by really leaning into the Battlemaster, that every turn I'm a little bit more alive. I'm not just simply shooting things with the bow. And that's the kind of issue I had with this character initially, is I just kind of felt weak from turn to turn. Whereas, okay, I'm on Will, and he's my Bardlock. I'm going to do all these cool abilities. I'm over on Shadowheart, and she's my Light Cleric. I'm going to use all these cool abilities. Even Karlach, as a Barbarian, he's a Barbarian fighter, by the way, felt just so much more of an active character. So that's why I've spiced in Battlemaster into my Beastmaster. You can, again, like I've said so many times in this video, just go 12 Beastmaster if you want to stick with the puppy. Or spice in a different character. Go rogue if you want. Literally, not like the term go rogue. Don't go that. Go rogue thief if you want to add in extra bonus actions. Go rogue assassin if you want to add that kind of flair of doing a lot of critical damage and a lot of surprise alpha strikes in there. There's a lot of different ways you can spice up your ranger than just simply going 12 levels. So hopefully this gives you a better idea of how to play it. This is my personal favorite ranger character. This is the one that is in my playthrough. I changed him up a little bit for this video. In fact, I actually optimized him. When I go back into my save, I'm probably gonna respec him. But still, this character is the one that I play and I have a lot of fun with. And you're right, it's not like the super ultimate Gloomstalker rogue ranger that can one-shot everything in the game. But it's the ranger that I envision when I think of a D&D ranger. And that's what was important to me in the roleplay I had in mind. So please, play the ranger how you want, play the character how you want, and have fun with Baldur's Gate, because it's a great, great experience. As always, though, thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any suggestions or things you would change, add, whatever it is, let it be known in the comment section below. But have a good one, and take care.